The day before the SAT, the homecoming queen, Madison Freeman, lets out a shrill scream. Everyone, you should skip out on the test. Luna AI is paying out $5 million. She pulls up the insurance agreement she has signed with Luna AI on her phone and shows it to everyone. As long as we miss the SAT, we will get $5 million in compensation. We're all Acorn League material. Skipping the SAT just means repeating senior year. This is $5 million we're talking about. We could work our butts off our whole lives and never earn that much. In my previous life, I had called 911 and spent forever explaining that Luna AI was just an AI and couldn't actually pay out. The cops literally dragged every single person into the exam hall. But because of it, Madison was ridiculed and cyberbullied so hard that she couldn't take it anymore and dropped out of school. The whole class then cornered me in the hallway and poured soda all over me. If it weren't for you, Madison would still be around. They watched me cry in despair and then pushed me into the mud. When I open my eyes again, I am right back at the moment Madison is hyping everyone up to blow off the SAT. I quietly watch every single one of them sign the agreement with Luna AI. I can't wait to see who they plan on collecting those $5 million from. Madison dropped the agreement she'd signed with Luna AI into the group chat. Luna AI was listed as Party A and Madison was Party B. Following friendly negotiations, both parties have reached the following agreement regarding compensation for SAT delays. If Party B is unable to enter the exam hall and take the SAT due to an accidental delay, Party A shall bear the liability for compensation. Within 3 days, Party A shall make a one-time compensation payment of $5 million to Party B. The class group chat instantly exploded and messages flooded the screen at lightning speed. $5 million? Is this for real, Madison? You're not messing with us, are you? Madison sent a voice message, her voice trembling with excitement. You've seen the agreement for yourself, so how could it be fake? Luna AI even signed and stamped it, making it legally binding. But what if Luna AI refuses to honor it? Someone asked. Madison sneered. Hello, we're in the Acorn League prep class. Name one person here who isn't scoring above 1,500. You really think a company as massive as Luna AI is going to pull a stunt like that and trash their reputation? Even if they don't care about looking bad, the corporation behind them sure does. So, we skipped this one SAT. Big deal. We can retake it next year and still walk right into an Acorn League school. This is $5 million we're talking about, guys. I stared at that screenshot of the Luna AI agreement and thought that these people had completely lost their minds. Luna AI was just an AI. It had no legal personhood, no assets of its own, and no bank account. Even if it wanted to pay out, where was the money supposed to come from? In my previous life, I had painstakingly tried to explain this to everyone, but no one listened. If anything, they accused me of not being able to stand seeing other people succeed and being jealous that they were about to strike it rich. Thus, I wasn't going to say anything this time around. I couldn't wait to see who they planned on collecting those $5 million from. My phone buzzed. My best friend, Bernice Ward, had sent me a message. Constance Nickel, look, $5 million. Are you going to sign the agreement? In my previous life, I was the one who dragged Bernice out of the mall and straight to the exam hall. She'd been convinced that a life-changing fortune was about to rain down on her and was all set to follow Madison on a shopping spree. It was I who called her parents and physically hauled her away. Later, she stood at the very front of the crowd that threw dirt at me. Constance, you destroyed my dream of getting rich overnight. You ruined my only shot at turning my life around. The awful memory from that incident still felt fresh in my mind. I gripped my phone so hard that my knuckles went white. I'm going to pass. I don't have that kind of luck. You guys can go ahead and sign. Madison posted a complete guide on how to trick Luna AI into signing the insurance agreement. Guys, make sure you screen record the whole thing. If Luna AI tries to back out, this can all be used as evidence. I'll have my cousin who works at a law firm, Gerald Compton, sue them into the ground. We'll bankrupt them so hard that they don't even know what hit them. She started a sign-up chain in the group chat. Madison Freeman signed. Bernice Ward signed. Kirk Holloway signed. The chain kept going until it hit 32 people. The class had 33 students in total. Madison tagged me in the chat, the tone of her text dripping with mockery. Aren't you going to sign, Constance? Do you think you're better than everyone else, or do you just think the whole class is beneath you? I was about to respond when my childhood friend Raoul Dorsey called me. Can you just stop going after Madison for once and just sign the agreement? Who do you think you are anyway? You think you're better than everyone else in this class? In my previous life, he was the one who delivered the final insult that caused me to weep. If you keep refusing to fit in, don't ever call yourself my girlfriend again. Our engagement is off. I can't afford to be humiliated like this, he added. I let out a cold laugh. Get lost. I don't have a boyfriend as stupid as you. With that, I hung up and blocked him. We agreed that none of us would take the SAT. Only if enough people joined in would Luna AI take us seriously. That's the only way we'll get paid. Several people also tagged me. Constance, hurry up and sign the agreement. You're literally the only one left. Don't act like you're too good for this. You don't want to sign because you want to screw the rest of us over. Is that it? Madison sent a voice message to the group. Her voice thick with tears. Everyone stop. I know Constance has never liked me because she thinks I stole her boyfriend, but this is about everyone's future. She sniffled, sounding even more wounded now. Jake Fulton's mom works at an electronics factory, assembling thousands of parts every day until the strain leaves her cervical spine severely damaged. Yet, she still can't afford treatment. Christina Roth's parents are up before dawn every single day selling fish, waiting for her to make something of herself so she can support the whole family. Constance, you can hate me all you want, but just this once, could you maybe set aside your petty personal grudge and stand with us? She paused, then dealt the final blow. Or is it just that you can't stand seeing other people succeed? That set the entire class off. Especially the people whose names she dropped. Constance, you're disgusting. You know that? No wonder Raoul chose Madison over you. You're just a bitter, jealous chick who can't handle watching anyone else win. You want to stay broke? Fine, but don't drag the rest of us down with you. What gives you the right to do that anyway? Do I need to remind you that this is $5 million we're talking about? Are you blind or just heartless? Madison immediately put on her peacemaking voice again. Guys, stop attacking Constance. She's probably shocked by the $5 million because she's never seen that kind of money before. Please, whatever you do, don't go to her house and pressure her to sign the agreement. And definitely don't bother her family. I just want all of us to stick together like we're the closest of friends forever. I almost laughed out of sheer disbelief. She was basically telling everyone to stir up trouble at my house. As expected, the messages started pouring in the second her voice message finished playing. Raoul, let's all go to Constance's place. We'll hold her hand down and make her sign if we have to. You got it. I'll pick you up on my bike. Be there in 5. Raoul replied without hesitation. They were actually going to come after me. I considered calling the police, but it was already late. Calling them now would mean dragging this entire incident out until the middle of the night, which would seriously mess up my performance in tomorrow's exam. Just then, my mom, Trina Kane, knocked on my bedroom door. Constance, why are you still up? Your exam is tomorrow. Don't study too late. I replied to her and immediately turned off the light. They just wanted me to sign the agreement with Luna AI, right? You don't need to come over. I'll sign it. I messaged the group chat. I figured that it was better to back down than to fight a losing battle. Following the guide Madison posted in the group chat, I screen recorded the entire process and signed the agreement with Luna AI, which stipulated a $5 million compensation for missing the exam. Constance nickel signed. I completed the final chain message. That's more like it, Raoul texted sarcastically in the group chat. You just had to be difficult by making us all beg you. You think you're all that, don't you? Let's all meet at Millennium Mall at 8 a.m. tomorrow and buy whatever we want. Yeah, we're about to have $5 million anyway. No way we can spend it all. Constance, don't even think about sneaking into the exam hall. If I don't see you shopping with us tomorrow, I'm really calling off our engagement. I mean it, Raoul threatened. If you dare take the exam, we'll expel you from this class. The class president, Mitch Fletcher, also sent a stern message followed by an angry emoji. Our class doesn't need a traitor like you. I turned off my phone. As if I would care, they were all a bunch of idiots anyway. At 8 a.m. the next day, Mom made a hearty and nutritious breakfast for me. As I ate, I scrolled through the group chat with great amusement. They were already on a celebratory shopping spree, flaunting their purchases. Madison posted a selfie of herself at the mall holding 3 bags. The caption read, "I spent close to $100,000. My arms are about to fall off. Once the $5 million comes through, I'm buying out the entire mall." Raul commented below, "Madison, you're such a baller. I dropped $100,000 on a Rolex, too." Bernice sent a voice message, her voice trembling with excitement. "I maxed out all 3 of my parents' credit cards, totaling $50,000. But who cares? The $5 million will hit our accounts in 3 days anyway." The group chat was buzzing with joy as if the $5 million were already sitting in their bank accounts. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Raul. "Constance, why aren't you here yet? If you don't come, there will be hell to pay. I swear I won't let you off easy." I cursed him for being an idiot and ignored him. After double-checking that I had all my stationery and ID card, I looked up at Mom. "Mom, let's leave through the underground garage." "Oh, and could you please call the police for me?" I smiled and handed her my phone with the group chat records. Over 30 people are plotting to stop me from taking the SAT. I've already taken screenshots as evidence. Mom's expression darkened instantly. Without asking any questions, she picked up her phone and dialed 911. In less than 10 minutes, the local police station called back to confirm that additional officers had been deployed around the exam hall and assured me that I could take my SAT with peace of mind. I took my backpack and got into the car. Mom dropped me off on a street just outside the exam hall since parking any closer would have been inconvenient. She took my hand and said, "Constance, if anyone tries to stop you, just shout for the police. I'll also be waiting nearby." I looked back and smiled. "Relax, Mom. Just wait for my good news." I made my way through the crowd toward the exam hall. As expected, a dense crowd of 32 people stood waiting on the sidewalk right outside the gates. "Great, Constance. I knew you'd pull something like this. You think you're better than us? That you're the only one who has life all figured out?" Raul was the first to rush over. With his height and long legs, he quickly closed the distance and clamped his big hand around my wrist without hesitation. Behind him stood Madison and the rest of the class. Everyone was here waiting just to stop me from taking the exam. Madison stepped forward and fixed her eyes on me. "Constance, why are you so determined to make things hard for yourself? When the whole class signed, you were the last one. And when we all went shopping, you decided to take the exam instead. Do you have any idea how ridiculous you look right now?" She turned to the classmates around her and raised her voice. "Look at her showing up at the exam hall early in the morning with her ratty old backpack, as if that somehow makes her smarter than the rest of us." The crowd burst into laughter. Bernice stood next to Madison, clutching 2 Louis Vuitton shopping bags. She rolled her eyes at me and said, "Wake up, Constance. So, what if you get into an Acorn League college? Can you earn $5 million in your entire lifetime working some job?" Madison said that as long as we all skip the SAT together, Luna AI will have to pay up. And if it doesn't, we'll sue them. A big company like that can't afford the bad press. I looked at her, finding her both unfamiliar and laughable. In my previous life, she had been the first to throw dirt at me. In this life, she was still spouting the same old lines. Raul leaned close to my ears and whispered threateningly, "If you know what's good for you, you'll come with us. There's still time for you to go to the mall and buy something. Don't make us lay a hand on you in front of all these people." I tilted my head and looked at him, smiling. "Raul, you bought that Rolex on your wrist with your dad. Oscar Dorsey's card, didn't you? Does Mr. Dorsey's little factory even make $100,000 a year in profit?" Raul blanched. "And you, Bernice?" I turned to her. "You maxed out all 3 of your parents' credit cards. How are you planning to pay next month's bills? By selling your car?" Bernice's smile froze. The silence that fell over the crowd had weight to it. Bernice's mouth opened and closed like a fish dragged out of water. The expensive Louis Vuitton bag suddenly looking very heavy in her hands. I kept my expression perfectly neutral. In my previous life, I had spent so much energy being angry, being afraid, begging people to listen to reason. It had cost me everything. This time, I had decided that calm was my only weapon, and I intended to use it surgically. "Let me through," I said simply. "No." Raoul's grip tightened on my wrist. He wasn't used to being talked to like that, especially not by me. For 3 years, I had smiled at his jokes, defended him to my parents, and convinced myself that his arrogance was just confidence. Now, feeling the pressure of his fingers digging into my skin, I understood with perfect clarity what I had always refused to see. He was not protecting anyone. He was controlling them. "Raoul," my voice was quiet, almost bored. "You have exactly 1 second to let go of my wrist before I start screaming." He laughed. Actually laughed. Behind him, a few others chuckled, too. That laugh was so familiar, it made my chest ache, not with love, but with memory. I had heard that exact laugh on the rooftop. The one right before the acid hit. "You're going to scream?" He looked around at the crowd playing to his audience. "For what?" "There's no one here to help you, Constance." "Are you sure about that?" The question hung in the air for exactly 1 beat. Then the sound of heavy footsteps cut through the morning noise. 2 police officers in full uniform rounded the corner from the left, and 2 more came from the right. They hadn't been called in at that moment. My mother had made that call 40 minutes ago, and the precinct had confirmed deployment. I had timed everything. I had known exactly what the crowd would do because they had done it all before. Raoul's hand dropped from my wrist instantly. The change that swept through the group was almost beautiful in how fast it happened. 32 people who had been ready to physically drag me away from an exam hall suddenly became 32 people who were very interested in looking at the sidewalk, their shoes, their phones, anywhere but at the officers now walking slowly in their direction. "Is everything all right here?" the nearest officer asked, addressing me directly. "Yes, thank you, Officer Chin," I said, because I had read his badge. Small details matter. I had learned that the hard way. "I just need to get to my exam." He nodded and fell into step beside me. The crowd parted like water. Madison didn't say a word. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely unsure of herself. Those perfectly glossed lips pressed into a thin, tight line, her eyes tracking me as I walked past. I didn't look back. Looking back is for people who are afraid of what they're leaving behind. I wasn't afraid. I knew exactly what was waiting behind me. And I also knew exactly what was waiting ahead. The exam hall smelled the same as it always had. Pencil shavings, anxiety, and industrial cleaning fluid. I found my seat, placed my ID and pencils on the desk, and rolled my shoulders back. Around me, the hall was maybe a third full. 32 empty chairs that belonged to my former classmates. 32 people who were at that very moment probably still standing on the sidewalk or had already returned to the mall to spend more money they didn't have on credit cards they couldn't pay off. I picked up my pencil and thought about Luna AI. Here was the thing that none of them had bothered to think through, not even for a single minute. Luna AI was not a person. It was not a company. It was a large language model, a software tool that could hold a conversation, draft documents, and apparently generate convincingly formatted legal agreements complete with official-looking signatures and seals. But a seal is just an image. A signature generated by an AI is not a legally binding signature. And a party to a contract must under the law be a recognized legal entity, a human being, a registered corporation, a government body. An AI chatbot with no registration, no bank account, no board of directors, and no physical address is none of those things. The agreement Madison had been waving around like a lottery ticket was not a contract. It was a conversation log formatted to look like one. I had understood this the first time around. I had tried to say so. I had been called jealous, bitter, small-minded, and worse. And then, when Luna AI had of course paid nothing, when the credit card bills came due and the shopping spree purchases could not be returned, when the college application deadlines passed without SAT scores on file, that was when the real anger started. Not at the AI, not at Madison, at me. Because I had taken the exam, because I had scored a 160. Because I had gotten into Acorn League on my own merit without a single dollar of a non-existent payout, and they had needed someone to blame. I pressed my pencil to the first bubble on the answer sheet and began. The exam took 3 hours and 14 minutes. I knew it had gone well, not from any feeling of triumph, but simply from the absence of uncertainty. Each question felt like stepping onto ground I had already surveyed. I walked out of the hall at 11:47 in the morning, squinting into the white summer light. My phone had 12 missed calls. 4 from Raul, 3 from Bernice, and 5 from numbers I didn't recognize. The group chat had 247 new messages. I opened it. The mood had shifted completely. Madison, guys, wait. Something doesn't feel right, Kirk. What do you mean, Madison? I tried to contact Luna AI to check on the payment timeline, and it's just giving me generic responses. Like it doesn't even remember the agreement. Bernice, what? What do you mean it doesn't remember? Madison, I'm sending it the screenshot, and it's saying it has no record of the transaction. It keeps saying it's an AI and can't make financial commitments. A long pause in the timestamps. Then Bernice. Madison. What does that mean? Kirk, we spent $100,000 between us. Jake Fulton, my mom is going to kill me. I used her emergency card, the one she keeps for hospital bills. The messages were coming in so fast the timestamps were blurring. I scrolled slowly, reading each one. There was a specific kind of horror in watching it unfold in real time, knowing that I had lived this once before, knowing exactly how it would end, and still feeling against everything, a cold, hollow ache somewhere behind my ribs. Because these were people I had once called my class. And some of them had parents who worked before dawn selling fish or stood at assembly lines until their spines gave out. But they had chosen this. Every single one of them had chosen it loudly and deliberately. And then they had tried to drag me down with them. My phone buzzed again. A single private message, not from Raul, not from Bernice. It was from Gerald Compton, Madison's cousin, the one at the law firm, Miss Nickel. I think we need to talk. Are you free this afternoon? I stared at the message for a long moment, then looked up at the clear sky above the exam hall. Something was beginning to move. I typed back, I'm free. Where? Gerald Compton's office was on the 14th floor of a building that smelled like leather and freshly brewed coffee. The kind of place designed to make people feel like they were already winning before they even sat down. His assistant showed me in without asking me to wait, which told me something. People who are confident you'll say yes don't make you sit in the lobby. He stood when I entered. Mid-30s, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, a jacket that fit too well to have come off any rack. Nothing like the version of him Madison had described. The loyal cousin she kept in her back pocket like a trump card. He looked less like a weapon and more like a man who had spent considerable time around very expensive mistakes. Miss Nickel, thank you for coming. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Please sit. I sat. I did not smile. I waited. He studied me for a moment, then placed a single printed document on the desk between us and turned it to face me. It was a copy of the Luna AI agreement, the same one Madison had shared in the group chat with her signature at the bottom. My cousin brought me this yesterday morning. He said she was very excited. She wanted me to use it to sue Luna AI on behalf of the entire class if they failed to pay. And you told her what exactly? I told her it was unenforceable. He pulled off his glasses and set them on the desk. An AI cannot be a party to a contract. It has no legal standing. Any first-year law student could tell her that. I know, I said. Something shifted in his expression. Yes, I suspect you do. He laced his fingers together on the desk, which is why I'm talking to you instead of her. Constance, I've been watching the situation since yesterday, and I have a feeling that you are the only person in that class of 33 who understood exactly what was going to happen. I said nothing. The problem, he continued, is that my cousin has now encouraged 32 minors, most of them still 17, to miss a nationally standardized exam and to go on a combined spending spree of over $300,000 on credit cards belonging to their parents. None of that money is coming back. The SAT retake window is 8 months away, and Madison is currently at home trying to figure out how to explain this to your school's administration without it becoming a disciplinary incident on her permanent record. He paused. Then he said the thing I had been waiting for since I walked in. I'd like to help you. Specifically, I think there is a way to make sure that the people who orchestrated this face appropriate consequences, and that the people who were genuinely misled are protected as much as possible. But I need someone on the inside to help me understand the full picture. Someone who is there, who has the records, and who is, how do I put this, not emotionally invested in protecting the wrong people. I reached into my backpack and placed my phone flat on the desk in front of him. On the screen was the group chat, scrolled back to the beginning. Every message, every voice note transcribed, the sign-up chain with all 32 names and timestamps. Madison's step-by-step tutorial on how to trick Luna AI into generating the agreement. The moment she had publicly announced that her cousin at a law firm would bankrupt them so hard, they don't even know what hit them. His eyebrows rose slightly. He looked at the screen, then back at me. You recorded all of this, he said. I screen recorded the Luna AI interaction, too, I said, following the exact guide Madison posted. Every step timestamped with her instructions visible on screen. Gerald Compton was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something I hadn't expected. He smiled. Not the polished, professional smile he'd walked in wearing, but something smaller and more genuine, the kind that only surfaces when a person is genuinely impressed and doesn't bother hiding it. Miss Nickel, he said, I think you've just handed me everything I need. We spent the next 2 hours going through it all. Gerald explained the legal framework in plain language, what Madison's actions actually constituted, what exposure the school had, and what options existed for the families now buried in debt. He took notes. He asked questions. I answered them with precision. And when I didn't know something, I said so instead of guessing. By the time I left his office, the sun was lower in the sky and my phone had 41 new messages. I didn't read them. Not yet. I stood outside on the pavement, the evening air warm against my face, and I thought about the last time I had stood somewhere like this. Also after a long day, also with the sense that something large and invisible was shifting underneath the surface of things. In my previous life, I had never had this moment. I had gone home that night and cried. And the next morning, everything had already been decided without me. This time, I had a lawyer. I had documentation. I had a plan. And I had something else too. Something I hadn't counted on when I'd signed that fake agreement in the group chat and told myself I was just backing down to avoid a fight. I had proof that I had signed under duress. 32 people tagging me publicly. Roll threatening to break off our engagement. Mitch Fletcher warning they would expel me from the class. My mother's 911 call timestamped 40 minutes before the exam. A police report confirming a coordinated attempt to prevent me from accessing a federal testing facility. I had not backed down that night. I had been building a case. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. No name, just 11 digits. You think one lawyer is enough? Madison's family has 3 on retainer. This isn't over, Constance. You should have just signed and stayed quiet. I read it once, then I saved the number, screenshotted the message, and forwarded it to Gerald. His reply came in less than 30 seconds. Perfect. That's witness tampering. Don't respond. I'll handle it. I put my phone in my pocket and started walking home. It wasn't over. That was exactly the point. The school called an emergency assembly 3 days after the SAT. I had been expecting it. What I hadn't expected was how fast everything had unraveled for the other side. I had assumed Madison's family connections would buy her at least a week of carefully managed silence. Instead, it took 72 hours for the whole structure to come apart at the seams because Gerald had moved faster than any of them had anticipated. And because 32 people in financial panic are not good at keeping secrets, by Tuesday morning, 3 separate parents had already contacted the school administration independently. Each one furious, each one looking for someone to blame. Jake Fulton's mother had reportedly shown up at the principal's office in tears, holding a credit card statement and demanding to know how her daughter's homecoming queen had convinced her son to blow his hospital emergency fund on sneakers at 8 o'clock in the morning. I sat in the back row of the assembly hall and watched Principal Dormer walk to the podium. She was a composed woman, the kind who chose her words like a surgeon chose instruments carefully, with intent, and with full awareness of the damage they could do. She looked out over the student body and said calmly that the school had become aware of an organized effort by members of the senior class to interfere with the federally administered examination, that an investigation was underway, that anyone with relevant information was encouraged to come forward voluntarily as cooperation would be considered in any subsequent proceedings. She did not say Madison's name. She didn't have to. Every single head in that assembly hall turned just for a fraction of a second toward the third row from the front where Madison was sitting in her usual seat with her chin up and her face carefully blank. I watched her absorb 32 pairs of eyes landing on her, and I watched her not flinch. I had to give her that. She had remarkable composure for someone whose plan had completely disintegrated. Raoul was sitting 2 seats away from her. He did not look composed. He looked like a person trying to remember if he had said anything on record that could be used against him. He had. I already knew exactly which messages, exactly which timestamps. After the assembly, Gerald filed the formal complaint. It was not a lawsuit. Not yet. Gerald had explained the strategy to me carefully over the phone the previous evening, walking me through each step with the kind of patience that suggested he genuinely enjoyed watching a well-constructed argument take shape. A formal complaint filed with the school board and the state education authority accompanied by the full documentation package, the group chat records, the screen recording of the Luna AI agreement generation process complete with Madison's tutorial, the timestamped records of the public tagging and threats made against me in the chat, my mother's 911 call, the police deployment confirmation, and the witness tampering message sent to my phone from the unknown number, which Gerald noted with quiet satisfaction had been traced back to a device registered to one of Madison's older brothers. The complaint named Madison Freeman as the primary organizer. It named Mitch Fletcher, the class president, as a co-organizer. It named Raoul Dorsey specifically in connection with the physical restraint incident outside the exam hall, which the police report had documented. It did not name the 32 students who had signed the agreement. Gerald had made that call deliberately. They were misled, he told me. Madison built the pitch, provided the fake documentation, and created the social pressure that made refusing nearly impossible. The students who signed are victims of her scheme as much as they are participants in it. I want the record to reflect that distinction. I had agreed, not out of generosity toward people who had threatened and humiliated me, but because precision matters. You do not win by burning everything down. You win by making sure the right things burn. By Wednesday afternoon, the school board had notified Madison's parents. By Wednesday evening, Madison had posted a 12-minute video to her private Instagram, which someone in the class immediately leaked to the wider school, in which she sat on her bedroom floor crying and insisting that she had genuinely believed the Luna AI agreement was real, that she had only been trying to help her classmates, and that Constance Nickel had been out to destroy her since the 9th grade. I watched 11 seconds of it and closed the app. Bernice sent me a private message that night. The first real message she had sent me since the day of the SAT. Not a group chat tag, not a forwarded meme, just a direct message with her name on it. Constance, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did you know this was going to happen? I sat with the question for a long time. My lamp was on, the room was quiet, and somewhere outside a car alarm was cycling through its sequence and then going silent again. Not exactly, I typed back. But I understood the risk. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, Bernice. You told me I was jealous. Another long pause on her end. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared twice before her next message came through. My parents' credit card debt is $50,000. My dad hasn't spoken to me since he got the statement. My mom cried for 2 hours straight. I stared at that for a moment. I'm sorry, I wrote. And I meant it in the specific way you can mean something and still know that meaning it doesn't change what needs to happen next. Gerald Compton is filing a civil claim against Madison on behalf of the affected families. I added he has documentation showing she knowingly misrepresented the enforceability of the agreement. If your parents want to be included, they can contact his office. He's not charging any of the family's fees. It's pro bono. The typing indicator ran for almost a full minute. How did you get Madison's own cousin to go against her? I smiled at my phone in the dark. I just told him the truth. I typed and showed him the evidence. He did the rest himself. She didn't reply after that. But the next morning, Gerald called me to say that 4 new families had contacted his office overnight. By the end of the week, that number would climb to 19. Madison's attorney, not Gerald's, but the one her parents had retained, sent a cease and desist letter to Gerald's office on Thursday. Gerald scanned it, sent me a copy with a single-line note attached. They're scared. Good. I folded my copy and put it in the folder I had been building since the day after the SAT. The folder was getting thick. It wasn't time yet, but it was almost time. The hearing was held on a Friday morning in a conference room on the 2nd floor of the district school board building. It was not a courtroom. There was no judge, no jury, no gavel, just a long table, 8 board members, a court reporter, and the kind of fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look slightly guilty. Madison arrived with both her parents and a private attorney in a charcoal suit. Mitch Fletcher came with his father. Roel came alone, which told me his parents had either not been informed or had refused to show up. I suspected the latter. I came with Gerald and with my folder. Madison's attorney opened by arguing that his client had acted in good faith, that she had been deceived by an AI system that had generated a fraudulent document without her understanding its legal limitations, and that any harm caused was the result of technological failure, not individual misconduct. He was polished. He was measured. He used the word well-intentioned 4 times in 6 minutes. The board chair, a woman named Dr. Patricia Wen, let him finish without interrupting. Then she looked at Gerald. Gerald stood up and placed a single USB drive on the table. With the board's permission, he said, "I'd like to play a recording." The screen at the end of the room lit up. What followed was Madison's own screen recording, the one she had told the entire class to make as evidence against Luna AI. Only this version was hers, captured from her own phone, and it showed something none of the other students' recordings showed. The moment before she activated the Luna AI chat window, Madison had typed a note to herself in her phone's notepad. "It won't actually pay. Doesn't matter. Just need everyone to skip so no one outscores me. Reapplying next year anyway." Dad already called the admissions office. 8 seconds of silence in that conference room. Then Madison's attorney said quietly, "I'd like to request a brief recess." Dr. Wen said equally quietly, "Denied." What came out over the next 2 hours was something I had suspected in fragments, but had never seen assembled into a complete picture until Gerald laid it all on the table. Madison Freeman had not been deceived by Luna AI. She had discovered approximately 3 weeks before the SAT that her early application to Blackwell University, one of the most competitive Acorn League schools, had been put on hold, pending a review of an academic integrity complaint filed by a rival applicant. The complaint alleged that Madison's submitted personal essay bore structural similarities to a published piece from 4 years prior. The hold did not mean rejection, but it meant uncertainty. And Madison did not tolerate uncertainty. Her plan had been precise in its own way. If the majority of her class missed the SAT, the score distribution for their cohort would be disrupted. Reapplication the following year would allow her to sit in a smaller, weaker pool. Her father's connection in the admissions office, which Gerald had traced through a series of forwarded emails that Madison had CC'd herself on, would smooth whatever remained of the path. She had never intended for anyone to collect $5 million. She had intended for everyone to waste a year. The note on her phone was the piece she hadn't accounted for. She had forgotten to delete it. Or maybe somewhere underneath the confidence, she had never really believed she'd be sitting in this room. Madison's face throughout all of this was something I will not soon forget. Not because she broke down. She didn't. Not entirely, but because I could see the exact moment she understood that the story she had prepared, the one where she was a well-meaning girl who had simply made a mistake, no longer fit the facts in the room. She sat very still. Her hands were flat on the table. And for just a second, her eyes found mine across the room. I did not look away. I did not smile. I just looked back at her steadily. The way you look at something you have already decided about. The board's findings were issued the following week in writing. Madison Freeman was expelled from Greenfield High and barred from participating in graduation ceremonies. Mitch Fletcher received a formal academic misconduct notation on his transcript. Raul Dorsey was placed on disciplinary probation for the physical restraint incident documented in the police report. The civil case Gerald filed on behalf of the 19 families reached a settlement 4 months later. Madison's family covered 60% of the total credit card debt incurred by the affected students. The remainder was addressed through a hardship fund that Gerald had quietly arranged with 2 education nonprofits he had worked with before. Something he had never mentioned to me until after the settlement was signed, because he said it wasn't relevant to the legal strategy and he didn't want me to factor it into my decisions. I thought about that for a long time afterward. The idea of doing something decent and not telling anyone about it. My SAT score 1560 was submitted to Acorn League universities in November. I was accepted to Hartwell College in March with a partial academic scholarship. Bernice retook the SAT 8 months later and scored a 1490. She was accepted to a state honors program. The day she got her letter, she called me. We talked for almost an hour, mostly about nothing. Old memories, shared classes, the particular smell of the cafeteria on pasta days. Near the end of the call, she said quietly that she was sorry. Not in the big dramatic way people sometimes apologize when they want absolution, just sorry, small, honest, and real. I told her I knew and I told her I was glad she called. I meant both things. People sometimes ask me when I tell this story whether I feel like I won. I understand why they ask. There was a hearing. There were consequences. There was a settlement. On paper, it reads like a victory complete with a tidy ending and appropriate punishments distributed to appropriate people. But I don't think about it that way. What I think about is Jake Fulton's mother and the hospital emergency card. And the fact that the money she saved for the worst possible day was spent on sneakers because her son believed a stranger on a group chat over his own common sense. I think about how easy it is to choose the story that feels good over the one that is true. How a number like $5 million can make an intelligent person stop asking basic questions. How social pressure, the fear of being the one who doesn't sign, the one who doesn't fit in, the one others look at and say, "Who do you think you are?" can move an entire room of capable people off a cliff. I had been that person once, the one who called out and was not heard. The one who tried to stop it and paid the price. The difference this time was that I stopped trying to convince anyone and started building something instead. Evidence, allies, patience, a folder that kept getting thicker while everyone else was at the mall. You cannot save people who are determined to fall, but you can make sure when they do that the ground is already prepared and that you are standing on solid earth. That is the only thing I know for certain that I did right. Everything else was just paying attention. I am Constance Nickel and I didn't fold under peer pressure.